I'm a teenager.
I'm a teenager.
I'm a teenager and I'm adopted.
When I tell people about this, they treat me differently to how they would treat any other person.
People can be really rude about it.
So it makes me feel very lonely.
So we're making this film in an attempt to help people understand how we feel about things.
So you're going to hear directly from us so you can understand it more. I'm Teresa. I was adopted when I was a baby, but before I was adopted I was in foster care quite a lot, so I got fostered a lot.
My name is Josh, I'm 16. I was adopted with my twin brother. Yeah, I want to be a chef in a restaurant or a cafe.
Well, my name's Alex, I'm adopted. I was adopted when I was about 8 months old, I think. I'm doing art and I'm redoing my maths because I'm not good at maths.
I was adopted when I was 9 months old. I want to become a drama teacher or an actor, but acting is an unreliable source of money.
I was adopted when I was a child, so I've known nothing different. I dance, I cheer, I go to school like every other normal kid.
My name's Claire. I am a child law paralegal and I was adopted at the age of 3 as part of a sibling group with my older sister who was 7.
Just like you're saying, when you're watching it the first time, you can't think. It might be that some of these answers aren't as well thought out because it's on the spot.
I'm Tanya. I run a group called Adopted Teens Identity, and it's a group to help support adopted teenagers.
So my name's Sarah and I've been a social worker about 26 years. One of the best things that we ever do with adopted kids and teenagers is introduce them to other kids and teenagers. Actually finding out that there's other people like them, it's just amazing watching them all come together.
ATID meet about 4 times a year, but tonight we're going to do something a bit different. We went out onto the streets of Leeds yesterday and interviewed the general public about what they know about adoption, and tonight we're going to show those clips to our teenagers and see what they make of it.
Okay, one thing that you...
I'm hoping that I will be pleasantly surprised by what people know about adoption, and I hope they know more than I perhaps give them credit for.
I think it can be quite an insecure feeling to know that you've been adopted, because you always have that in the back of your head, well, why am I not with my real parents? Why didn't they step up and take care of me when they are my real parents?
I do understand that if people were adopted that they might think about who their real parents are, but they've been brought up by certain people from a little age and that's their parents to them and that's all they've known.
It must be pretty great to be adopted because you feel like someone really cares about you and someone really wants to give you that second chance in life.
I'm in two minds about Miss Purple Hair. I dislike that she says that it's a second chance, as if we've done something to mess up the first chance.
So that woman said on there, you've been adopted from a young age, as far as you know, they're your parents, but they're not. Obviously I think of my mum and dad as my mum and dad because to me they are, but to people who I know, they're just some people who are taking care of them.
My biggest bugbear is the question, and all adopted children will have been asked this, so when are you going to find your real parents? And it's that word, it's that real word that really just grates on me.
That's the thing with adoption, people can either be too rude or too kind, and it's never in between. You don't get treated like everyone else.
As an adopted person, I feel as if I'm not part of the world.
Being adopted is like living a regular life, just with a different family to who you were born with. Sometimes that can be difficult, but other times it's easy.
I think that the teenagers feel that adoption is part of them. It's not something that they can ignore, and it's not something that they can forget about, but they also just feel like normal people, teenagers.
Some people think when you're adopted, that's it. You live happily ever after, but that's not the real truth. They just believe that. The real truth is that you are adopted, and I am so grateful that I have been adopted, but it's like a roller coaster. So like you can have good days and you can have bad days, and it's because you've got these feelings like inside of you, like saying someone like wanted me but couldn't keep me, and it gets to me a lot. That even though you try so hard, sometimes it's just not enough.
I don't see any reason why there should have any limitations at all. I'm sure they've been brought up nicely with their new parents, and so they'll have every opportunity to do what they want.
Kids wouldn't have any disadvantage if they were in a loving family environment.
I know a few people that were adopted, and to be honest with you, my personal experience, they're more likely to be involved in negative subcultures. They're more likely to be involved in crime, possibly as well, because they might feel neglected. But then there are some people that if they are looked after well and they do get along well, they can be as good as everyone else.
Yeah.
What?
Is it illegal?
That guy's saying like how there's crime and stuff.
Yeah, but anyone who like commit a crime can't be like just because
Yeah,
you're
but-
adopted doesn't mean like
Adopted kids haven't cornered the market on crime.
No.
People think that adoption is a disability, and it does wind me up because it isn't. It's completely different.
I think people always expect less of you, like it is some debilitating thing that you weren't born into your family, which is ridiculous.
We're not really that different, to be honest. We are still people.
People think, oh, we're always upset, like if it's mentioned once, like the word adoption, we're going to burst into tears and walk out of Western or something.
If someone comes along and starts getting it wrong, it affects them in a way where it just makes them feel misunderstood, different.
The myths like that adopted children will be bad at education is quite a horrible one. What I always experienced is that people were surprised how well I did in education, and that's just as hurtful as expecting less of me, because it's not some amazing thing that I've managed to go to school every day and to learn. It's a normal thing.
A child that's been adopted from a baby and grown up in a family, I definitely think it would affect them less than someone that was adopted later on in life. But I still think it would have a certain emotional effect.
A lot of people can like judge you on, so say like you're the adopted kid. Sometimes you can get judged if, I don't know, some kids are a bit naive and stupid, and they'll just think that because they're adopted that they're less of a person.
I think it would depend on whether or not you knew you were adopted, B, it was shared with kids at school. So I think, again, it's like anything, children can be cruel. It's a truism to say that, but they can. So I guess it's another vulnerability that if somebody wanted to sort of bully you or exploit you in some way.
Do you think that guy who said it's something that can get used against you and that you can get bullied for? That's right.
I do. Yeah. I don't tell anyone about it because I don't exactly fit in at school because of the school that I'm at. Just in general, I don't. And I mean, I've only told the teachers about it at school. Yeah. All the kids in the school know. And I'm like, but how's that possible? Because I ain't told any of them.
A guy in assembly in front of my whole year group shouted out I was adopted. I was like, oh, thanks. And then he was like, so why'd you get so annoyed at me all the time? And I'm like, why'd you think?
There's just little bits that all adopted children find difficult. So like school and friends and telling people, not telling people, how and when, and all those kinds of things.
I think school is just a hotbed of difficulties for adopted kids.
So a lot of my friends are like, oh Alex, I'm going to adopt you. I think people think it's kind of funny. And it's not really funny, is it? It's quite sad.
I had an argument with a girl in PE, and when she'd run out of things to say, she went for, oh, well, at least my parents wanted me.
They're all with their biological parents, and I'm not. So I feel like I'm a bit of an outcast.
When we're talking about family and things, they will be more careful about what they say, like. But in a way, I just think I'm like every other teenager at school, so I can have normal conversations like everyone else.
It's a massive time for forming identity. You know, you're trying out different friendship groups, you're trying out different, what do I look like? And I think that the whole issue of your past and how it shapes you going forward, you can't escape that. So it's definitely going to play some
part of who you are.
It's not necessarily that you're completely different to other people, but you approach things differently.
Some people would harbour a lot of resentment and anger towards them. And then another child might just be curious to figure out what their parents look like, whether they have any resemblance to them.
If I, for example, was adopted, I'd want to know if my birth parent was out there and whatever happened to them, and I'm wondering whether they actually do know or whether it's kept secret from them.
They could be nervous but excited, happy, but they could be not even bothered really, not want to.
Whoa, what do you think about that?
I liked the guy who named the emotions that you might feel. But the fact that you named the emotions, no one else really named the emotions. He was like, you might feel nervous, you might feel excited, you might feel happy, you might feel sad.
If you did want to go see him, it'd depend on when you did see him, how you'd feel, because you wouldn't really know till you actually saw him and you're like, this is the person who brought me into this world and this is the person who I got taken away from for something that either they did or I did or something happened.
When I grow up and I become 18, because I get to see my parents when I'm 18, I'm a bit worried about that because you don't know what they're going to do or whether they want to see you.
What I usually think about my birth parents is that they're just normal people who had a child and just couldn't look after it. And then I want to meet them when I'm older, definitely, but I don't know if that's possible yet.
My feelings about finding all the answers about my birth family are I'm quite anxious, but I'm also really excited because I just want to know that missing part of me.
I also have been adopted without some of my siblings, so it's really awkward because you have to see if you can meet up with them, but sometimes they can't because we've got different lives, so they're busy.
I know I've got birth brothers and sisters as well, which I would love to meet. And I don't know, I think they feel the same way, but they're related to me and I really want to get to know them because they're younger than me as well, so it's really hard to know that there's two other people in the world that you haven't met and you're related to. So,
as we spend lots of time talking, they think about their birth families quite a lot. Most of them, not all of them.
Everyone doesn't want to find the birth parents. That's a myth that's quite laughable actually, because again it depends on the circumstances. I'm not bothered about meeting them or finding them or really having anything to do with them because I don't feel like they deserve that.
Things that help me deal with life and adoption is I have a storybook which tells me all about it. A life storybook is a book what you get, and it goes from biological parents and describes what happened in that life, and then you've got the second life of your foster carers and things and what happened there. Then you've got your third life, which is your adoption family.
And they all have those questions in their head about am I going to turn out is that part of me? Is that innate within me, or is it nature, nurture? They're big questions, and dealing with them as a teenager is not always easy.
I'm kind of glad that I got brought up in a different way, in a different family. At the same time, it's a bit sad because you could have had two lives, there's two different ways it could have gone, and you kind of wonder sometimes how it would be if you still lived with that family.
People need to know when to ask questions and how to ask them appropriately.
We just come from two different families, which is quite cool.
I think it's pretty positive to be adopted, and I'd like a lot of people to think of it as that way as well.
I would like to say to people, so I believe I've got loads of different lives in one life really, so I feel like it's brilliant.
I think people need to know that the question, when are you going to meet your real parents, is horrible and should be banned. It should be forbidden from all conversation ever with an adopted child.
People think you're adopted because your biological parents don't want you, you're unwanted, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they just physically can't look after you.
I don't know, I guess you'll always be adopted, so that will always be a part of your life. and it has changed your life, so you can't change that.
I think I want prospective adopters to hear that when you're adopting, you're not just adopting a baby, you're adopting a teenager, and I think that's one of the things that's come out with this group, isn't it?
If they know that I'm adopted, they'll tiptoe around the actual subject, and I'm like, can you just get to the main point that you want to ask me a question about? Because I really don't mind it.
I think that they often feel in their school lives, or their life in general, is that people don't fully understand what adoption means and how it affects them, and they have a lot of feelings around it.
It's been tough sometimes in life, but you get there. So yeah, I'm happy to be adopted.
Adoption is just amazing.
What I've learned is just to flow with them, because like other teenagers, if you take them too seriously, or you hang on to their every word, or you're really earnest, you're paying too much attention to the adoption bit and not to the person, and you've just to flow with it. So I've had an opportunity to do that by spending lots of time with adopted teenagers.